Ladies and gentlemen, today we start with the first ever addition to the Glorious Guardian series. And yes, we will cover every Glorious Guardians champion like we did with last year. And do be mindful of the community posts that I upload, since that will pretty much decide the order that we cover them. Since these are all champions that have been buffed, we have some good ones, we have some mid ones, but today we're gonna be covering one of the best ones that we've actually seen. I have no idea why they decided to go so hard with this man. This dude is literally contending with CGR, which is crazy to think about. In I don't know why they keep giving these broken playstyles to these mid-looking champions, but okay. He's arguably the best champion that you can pull, especially when it comes to places like Battlegrounds, and with him being so good, it's only a matter of time before we actually see him everywhere. But before we get too much into that, let's actually go over all of his abilities first, and then later on discuss why you should play him. And before we get to that, a quick shout out to my boy Bhavya for providing the gameplay. He also does have a YouTube channel, which I will leave the link for that in the description. But yeah.
It's beginning to look a lot like
Deadpool can inflict taunt debuffs on the opponent, reducing their attack rating by 25% for 16 seconds, and the max stacks of these taunts that he can have is 3. Each time the opponent fails to activate a buff or a debuff during a basic attack, he then inflicts a taunt debuff with a cooldown of 4 seconds. His heavy attack also inflicts a taunt debuff onto the opponent, and his 4th light attack can actually disable his special 3 for 0.5 seconds. But moving on to his bleed debuffs, Duodenum Poke. All of his attacks inflict a bleed debuff, dealing a certain amount of direct damage over 4 seconds with a cooldown of 4 seconds, and whenever an opponent tries to purify, cleanse, or use the life model decoy, the bleeds will then be inflicted as a Schlaboof debuff or something, which become passives instead and deal 70% more damage. If the opponent is suffering from a daunted effect, then all of his duodenum bleeds will instead inflict an instant Schlaboof Shabaf, dealing a burst of direct damage. As for the super slap with the heavy attack, whenever he walks forward or lands a light attack 1 as well as 3, he then builds up indefinite slap charges, maxing out at 1. While he's at the max amount of these slap charges, slapping the opponent with a heavy attack will inflict 10 stacks of duodenum poke as bleeds. But moving on to his special attacks, the special one. During this attack, his duodenum poke will not have a cooldown, and if he's at 10 slap charges, the final hit will then trigger a super slap, inflicting an additional 20 duodenum bleeds, increased to 25 if it's against a skill champion. The special 2. As a defender, he is 100% more likely to use it over any other special attack, and for each hit that is blocked, he then inflicts a taunt debuff. If all hits successfully land on the opponent during this attack, he has a 100% chance to inflict a stun passive lasting for 2 seconds, and the final hit of this attack inflicts a 50% daunted passive for 15 seconds, which is paused during special attacks and increases the amount of damage that opponents take during special attacks. And last but not least, the special 3. It inflicts a taunt debuff on the opponent, and he gains a 60% vicious buff for 25 seconds, and while this vicious buff is active, all taunt debuffs on the opponent will then be paused. But as for his awakened ability, each time the opponent purifies a taunt debuff, or if a taunt debuff on the opponent is reduced due to hitting on the max stack limit, he will then gain a power efficiency buff, reducing the cost of special attacks by 20% until the next special attack is used. This has a cooldown of 13.6 seconds, and the max stacks of this buff that you can have is 2. Against skill champions, each Shaboof Stabaf passive up to 1 reduces their regeneration rate by 11%, and that is pretty much it. a lot of schlaboofs, debuffs, or whatever they're called. And I'm glad I'm done with that because I'm never gonna say that word again. A very simple kit, almost little to no utility at all, but it doesn't even matter if you're doing 200k bursts. But anyways, on to this man's attire, and ish. Black and white is a very good color combination, but for some reason, this kinda just looks like gray. I do think the fit is alright, doesn't really stand out too much and pretty much just looks basic. It also doesn't help that I would have preferred OG Deadpool with this kind of kit, because they recently updated his drip but forgot about his abilities. When it comes to the attire, I'll be giving this a 6 out of 10. Very basic, nothing too much going on. But anyways, on to the topic of why you should play him. And for this, it's very simple. I mean, you can literally see it on the screen yourself. The man is absolutely insane. 200k burst for free? The damage kinda doesn't make sense. It's similar with CGR as well as Juggernaut. And the fact that this man literally just joined them in the lineup is kind of ridiculous. His playstyle is basically you just throwing a special 2 into a special 1, and the opponent is most likely gonna be dead, which is very ideal, especially when it comes to places like Battlegrounds. The only problem I would say that he has is that he has no utility. He's not immune to anything, he doesn't counter anything either. The only thing that he actually does do is sort of reapply his bleed debuffs, but other than that, you'd pretty much just be taking him up for damage. He's probably the best Nick Fury counter in the game now, and it's funny that they keep making fun of Danny Moonstar, cause that was her job, but now it seems like everyone has that. If you've managed to pull him, he's an absolute beast, and I'm sure that you'll enjoy his simplistic playstyle. But that's pretty much it when it comes to Deadpool X-Force. Very simple champion, very straightforward. A kid that was supposed to go to another Deadpool, but I digress. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think of him. Make sure to join my Discord group, the link will be down in the description. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace!